The culture of cancellation, a comprehensive and critical analysis of its social, cultural, and legal implications. The culture of cancellation represents one of the most controversial and complex social phenomena of our digital age. Although it has been widely debated on social media, in the press, and in public forums, its implications extend beyond the digital realm, affecting freedom of expression, public life, and interpersonal relationships. This video explores the origins, development, legal implications, emblematic cases, and the growing practice of cultural revisionism, linking these aspects to the concerns raised in works such as George Orwell's 1984. Origins and historical evolution, cultural roots. The concept of cancellation has its roots in African American communities in the United States during the 1990s, particularly in pop culture and hip-hop, where canceling someone meant withdrawing support due to actions deemed offensive. Its transformation into a global phenomenon is tied to the rise of social media, which has democratized public discourse but has also facilitated dynamics of social control and censorship. Chronology of the development of this culture. 2015 to 2017, the #MeToo era. The #MeToo movement marked a turning point in cancel culture, with public accusations leading to significant consequences for those accused of sexual abuse. 2018 to 2019, expansion and commercialization. Companies and brands adopted preventive measures to avoid being canceled, resulting in corporate policies based on social sensitivity. 2020 to 2024, politicization and polarization. During the COVID-19 pandemic, cancellation occurred across all media but was particularly intense and aggressive on social media, where anyone proposing alternative information or ideas about the pandemic, its treatment, or its origins was immediately condemned to silence. Today, cancel culture has transformed into a mechanism of accountability aimed at holding public figures responsible for comments or behaviors perceived as offensive or harmful. However, it has also been criticized for its potential to promote social ostracism and silence dissenting voices. Contrasting perspectives. Supporters, those who defend cancel culture, argue that it is a necessary tool to correct historical injustices and promote social responsibility. From their perspective, it amplifies the voices of marginalized communities and denounces behaviors that perpetuate discrimination and oppression. They also argue that cancellation is not a form of censorship but an expression of freedom of association and opinion. Critics, on the other hand, critics argue that cancel culture fosters a punitive mentality that leaves no room for repentance or learning. They also criticize its subjective nature, as what is offensive to some may not be to others. In some cases, it is accused of undermining freedom of expression, generating polarization, and disproportionately damaging careers and reputations. Legislation on freedom of expression. The impact of cancel culture is mediated by laws and regulations on freedom of expression, which vary considerably between countries. Some notable examples include: United States, the First Amendment protects freedom of expression from government actions but does not regulate speech on private platforms like social media, where most cancellations occur. However, debates have emerged about possible regulations to protect diverse opinions in the digital space. Europe, the European Union regulates hate speech through Article 10 of the European Convention on Human Rights, which states that freedom of expression may be subject to restrictions to prevent hatred and protect public order. In countries like England, following the 2024 riots, strict measures have been adopted to monitor social media content. China, the government strictly regulates online expression, using censorship mechanisms to suppress content deemed subversive or critical of the party. Mexico, in 2023, the approval of the Ley Trace de Trace against gender-based political violence marked a milestone. This legislation prohibits individuals with a history of gender violence, sexual assault, or failure to pay alimony from holding public office. Revision of cultural works and cancellation of historical heritage. In the context of cancel culture, there has been a growing trend toward cultural revisionism and the modification of original works, from Disney films to song lyrics, script dialogues, and even historical monuments. While some see these actions as adapting to contemporary sensitivities, others criticize them for altering the original context of cultural creations. Consequences for minority groups. While cancel culture is often presented as a mechanism to protect minority groups, it can also have adverse effects. On one hand, it amplifies the voices of those historically silenced. On the other, it can lead to excessive scrutiny and self-censorship, limiting internal debate within the same communities. Politically correct language, post-truth, and fake news. Politically correct language is closely related to cancel culture, as it seeks to avoid expressions that may be considered offensive. However, in the era of post-truth, where emotions prevail over facts, and fake news distort information, the use of this language can be perceived as an attempt to control discourse. Emblematic cases. Donald Trump. In 2021, platforms like Twitter and Facebook suspended the former president's accounts following the Capitol riots, citing risks of incitement to violence. Democrats and censorship. In the U.S., some Republican sectors have accused Democrats of attempting to censor conservative voices under the pretext of combating misinformation. Riots in England. 2024. A social media post with anti-immigrant content sparked riots and led to a wave of arrests. Future of cancel culture and changes in corporate policies. With recent political changes in major governments worldwide, including the rise of conservative forces in Europe and the return of a less restrictive discourse by leaders like Donald Trump in the US, a significant shift in cancel culture and corporate policies is anticipated. Opinions of recognized commentators. Ben Shapiro. The woke culture has imposed a climate of fear in companies, but we are seeing a shift toward rationality, where brands begin to prioritize their consumer base over ideological agendas. Roxane Gay. This backlash toward more conservative policies may seem like a victory for opponents of social progress, but it risks normalizing behaviors that marginalize historically oppressed communities. Bari Weiss. This is a cultural recalibration that tests the boundaries between social responsibility and freedom of expression. Ben Burgess. It is a mistake for leftists to participate in moralistic cancellations or retreat into a marginal subculture. Diego Rosarin. Cancel culture reflects, in part, the impotence of the justice system to adequately address certain behaviors. Conclusion. Cancel culture is a complex phenomenon that reflects tensions between accountability, freedom of expression, and cultural change. While it has created spaces for social justice, it also poses significant risks, such as polarization and self-censorship. The challenge lies in finding a balance that allows the free exchange of ideas without sacrificing respect and inclusion. As usual, we invite you to subscribe to From the Studio, like, share, and comment. Until next time.